Okay, Matt with Service Business from Home, Haloscapes LLC, www.haloscapes.com. Today I'm going to talk about how to set up your landscape company. This is for any service business, but if you are getting started, or maybe you've been going for a year or two and you know that you've got some loose ends out there and you don't really know how to figure it out, this video is for you. Now, what I'm going to talk about is my process and my journey going from basically chucking a truck to being a legitimate business, and what's required to do that. I want to tell you about what is the bare minimum. If you're a one-man show just getting started, maybe you've been doing side work while working another job, you finally jumped off the porch, as they say, and you're in it with both feet now, but you don't know if you've got all your I's dotted and your T's crossed. We're going to talk about that. Now, so tune in, and I'm going to give you some gold in this one. So let's just get started. First of all, I'm in Ohio, and Ohio's laws might be different from the state that you're in, but I'm guessing that most states are pretty similar. So, with that being said, some of your big websites that are going to be huge resources for you, your Secretary of State website's going to be big. Your Department of Taxation website for your state is going to be big. Your workers' compensation for your state going to be big. Unemployment for your state going to be big. Federally, your IRS website is going to be big. Now, licensing, if you're a plumber, you're an electrician, in some states, contractor, you might need licensing. I don't know anything about licensing for those types of professions. And landscaping, I can tell you, for the most part, you might need to be a certified arborist for certain things, but for licenses in particular, the only license you absolutely need when you get started is a service vendor's license. And there's a threshold. It's either $5,000 or $10,000 in gross revenue. You can look that up on your Department of Taxation website. There's always a debate on whether or not landscape companies need to collect sales tax. And I'm here to tell you, you can look on the website yourself and confirm this, but a service business like a lawn company or a landscape maintenance company, you do need to collect sales tax in Ohio. Now, if you're doing construction, you don't need to collect sales tax. So there might be some situations where you don't have to charge the sales tax. But generally speaking, if it's a service business in Ohio, if you're providing a service, you probably need to collect sales tax. Please check that for yourself on the Department of Taxation website, and they have a phone number there. Now, I know you're going to sit on hold for a while, but if you are unsure, call the phone number. They'll actually, once you get through the red tape and talk to somebody, you will usually find out that those people are very helpful and they want to help you. They're not trying to make it so difficult for people that you can't run a business. They want to help you be compliant, and the truth is you should want to be compliant because first of all, the main reason for me is I sleep better at night knowing that I'm not cutting corners. Now, at first, as a single person starting your service business, let's just assume right now you have no employees. In Ohio, all you need is your service vendor's license. That's unless you're putting down fertilization, weed control, pest control, spraying bushes, using chemicals for any reason. If you are doing that, you need an applicator's license. You get that through the Department of Agriculture. So just getting started, I would avoid those services personally. But starting out, all you need is your service vendor's license, and if you haven't filed any other paperwork, You are a sole proprietor by default. You don't have to file any paperwork to be a sole proprietor. You just are one already if you haven't done anything. It's by default. So I hear people have this conversation of, I got my DBA, I got my LLC. I think the way people word this is very confusing because there isn't really anything get your DBA. That's not like an LLC where it's a specific business entity. If you are DBA, which means doing business as, you're usually a sole proprietor. So if I'm Matt Hallinan doing business as Haloscapes and I have not filed anything to be an LLC, then I'm just a sole proprietor. So where the DBA comes into effect is where you are going to go and get a business checking account. I don't care who you are, as long as you don't owe the bank money. You can walk into any bank, let's just assume they provide business checking accounts, and say, hey, I'm Matt. I'm doing business as Matt's Landscapes, and I want to open a business checking account. They're not going to be like, well, are you incorporated? Do you pay workman's comp? And they're not going to do that. They're going to go, okay, here's a form, fill it out. The form's going to say, are you a sole proprietor, partner, LLC, corporation? You just check sole proprietor, and when it says enter in your tax ID number, you just put your social security number. You don't have a tax ID number yet, okay? You're just getting started. You don't need that right now. We're going to talk about that in a minute. So the reason I'm going into detail like this and the tone I'm using, it's not to sound arrogant or to belittle anybody. Because the reason I'm saying it like this is because when I was new, this stuff scared the hell out of me. I thought there's no way I'm going to figure this out. I'm doing something wrong. I'm going to get in trouble. I don't have the licenses. And, you watch YouTube videos and it doesn't help a whole lot sometimes because a lot of times the guys making the videos don't really understand the nuances of things. So when you go in and get that business checking, they are going to call it Matt Hallinan DBA Haloscapes. All that means is DBA is doing business as. Okay? It's not your business entity type is not a DBA. Your business entity type is a sole proprietorship. Sole proprietor. Okay. Moving past that. So now you've got a service vendor's license, which you got off of your state Department of Taxation website. There's going to be a link on there for service vendors, businesses, apply for vendors. It's easier than you think. I'm not going to walk through every step of that on the computer because it's different in every state. And if you don't understand, if you're not good at computers, you find the phone number on there, you call the person, and this is exactly what I had to do, okay? So don't feel bad. If you aren't good at computers, don't feel bad, okay? I hate getting on the computer and having to do stuff. I would much rather be on the phone, be out in the field, doing stuff like that. But so just call. There are certain times that they're not as busy. You won't have to sit on hold for an hour, but they'll walk you through it. They'll literally, when I set up my vendor's license, I had one in the past. So when I applied, it kept pulling up my old vendor's license and I had to get on the phone with them. It did. It took me an hour or two with somebody who understood things to work through it. And I got the new vendor's license. And when I went to pay my sales tax every month, the first time, it was tough. I had to call them back again and have them walk me through it because these websites can be tricky. But yeah, that's the whole point though, is they want you collecting sales tax for them. So once you get that service vendor's license, you can say, I'm licensed. I mean, you are. That's the only license you need for landscaping. Other than if you're putting chemicals down. The DBA, you go in, you get your checking account, you got a service vendor's license, you got a checking account, you're ready to rock. Now, people are going to say, but wait, you don't have workers' comp. If you're a sole proprietor, you don't have to have workers' comp. Now, if your clients ask you about workers' comp, don't lie to them and say, yeah, I have it. You say, hey, I'm a sole proprietor. The state of Ohio doesn't require it for sole proprietors. And what I would recommend is you get liability insurance. But I have a $3 million liability policy, which covers me for this and that and whatever. Okay? Now, people are going to say, well, I can't afford liability insurance. Yes, you can. Because guess what? When I got my first liability insurance policy, I got it through a company called Hiscox, Hiscox, and I believe they are a department of Progressive. They're a smaller company associated with Progressive. I went on there. I went online. I told them I'm doing 20K a year, 50K a year, whatever. It was my first year. I think they charged me $41 for the first monthly. They took it, and I didn't even have to pay it right away. So I had 30 days. So if you can't go out in 30 days and make $41, you're not trying hard enough. So there you go. Now you've got your liability insurance, you've got your checking account and your DBA, and you've got your service vendor's license. You're licensed and insured. That's all you need. You're good. You can go do business in Ohio. I do want to say, none of this is legal advice. This is just my opinion. I've got the experience, and if you have any questions about any of this, call your Secretary of State, call your taxation department, call your workers' compensation people, talk to them and get it verified. Don't take my word for anything, okay? This is just my experience, my opinion, and my true belief on how these things work. And I've got some experience, so, I think my opinion's pretty solid. Now that you've got those basic things squared away, you can be out there doing business and feel good about it. As you grow, you're going to want to add an employee or, give yourself some liability protection, and maybe switch from being a sole proprietor to an LLC. To become an LLC, what you do is you file what's called articles of organization. That is a special way of saying you're going to fill out a form. Seriously. That's it. You're going to fill out a form and write a check for $100 and send it to your Secretary of State. That is literally it's just a scary way of making people think that it's some hard thing to do, and it's not. Secretary of State website, you go on there, and it's going to be under file for an LLC or, start a business, something like that. Or you just call them. That's what I always have to call the people. I can never figure it out on the website. So don't feel bad if you go on the website and you're like, okay, I tried this and I tried that, and I keep going into this one thing and I can't figure it out. Pick up the phone. With my articles of organization for my LLC, I could not figure out how to save it into an Adobe whatever document so I could fill it out on the computer, upload it to my computer, attach it to an email, all that. I could not figure that out. So I printed it out. I filled it out with a pen. I put it in an envelope with a stamp, put a check in the envelope, Secretary of State of Ohio, mailed it, and waited for them to mail the thing back to me. It came about a week to 10 days later, and it said, you're now officially Haloscapes LLC. But what's that? Becoming an LLC is going to give you that added layer of protection where the corporation's going to be liable for things, not you. So, if you knock over someone's house, they can't come take everything you own. Um, and I'm not going to get into different legal nuances like piercing the corporate veil. Just know from a liability standpoint, it's better to have either a corporation or an LLC. And, from what I've learned, LLC is usually the better choice for a small businessman. Um, Workers' compensation. Okay. If first of all, it's not as crazy expensive as people think. Um, it's not that bad. I think mine was $1,200 or $1,300 a year. It's gone up though since I'm making more money now. It's more. It's based on your payroll. Okay. So if your payroll's $30,000 or 40,000 in your first year, they're not going to charge you all kinds of crazy money. I think it's like a 1.5% of your payroll, and that depends on what category you're in. But again, for me, Ohio Department of Workers' Compensation, pick up the phone. What do I need to do? You don't have to understand all this stuff ahead of time. Now, if you don't have employees as a sole proprietor, you can opt out of having workers' compensation because it's just you. So if you want to take the risk on yourself, you can take that risk. The problem is people may not want to hire you because you could go and sue them. So to get an LLC or whatever, you go to the Secretary of State website. For your workers' comp, it's really not as expensive as people try to act, and it's really not as big a deal as people act. Department of Workers' Compensation of your state. Unemployment, same thing. You can opt out if you're a sole proprietor, but once you have employees, you do have to have unemployment insurance. And it's a lot like workers' comp. It's not as crazy as expensive as people think. And, if you're making money, it's based on payroll. If you're making money, you're going to have to, buck up. But it's not crazy. It's like $1,500 per 100,000 in payroll or something like that. And of course, this all is varies, okay? So don't quote me on those numbers. But I think the biggest problem with this stuff is fear. People like me who want to start their own business and really don't know what they're doing from this aspect of it aren't experienced business people. They're just scared, and it paralyzes us with fear because we don't know where to start. So here's where you start. Get your service vendor's license. Get a business checking account. You can say you're a sole proprietor and use your social security number. Now, once you have employees, you need to go on the IRS's website and get what's called an EIN, an employee identification number. I've also heard it called an FEIN, a federal employee identification number. When you fill stuff out for whoever and they ask for your tax ID, that's what they're talking about, okay? And that's another thing. People call things different stuff all the time because I have my EIN and I'm like, what's this tax ID thing? I don't have a tax ID. What did I? It's your EIN, okay? So everybody take a deep breath. You're going to be fine. The last one. Should I go LLC or S Corp? This one bugs me so much because they are two different things. An LLC is a business entity. It is a business structure, whether you're going to be a sole proprietor, a partnership, an LLC, a corporation, and then there are hybrids out there. Okay? An LLC has the liability protection of a corporation, and it has the pass-through taxation of a partnership. So the benefit for the liability is it has the protection that a corporation has, and the benefit tax-wise is it has pass-through taxation like a partnership does. Now, there is a certain level of income that you get to where the pass-through taxation does not benefit you as much as you would benefit by having a different structure, being taxed as an S corp. So that is when you file, and to do this, you still have to pay yourself a reasonable salary. But let's say you're making over 100,000, you want to pay yourself 40 or 50,000 in salary, which the taxes get taken out of. Those wages, the employer, which is you, has to match the Social Security and Medicare payments. It's called employer matching. A lot of people will call this self-employment tax, but it's employer matching. So you have to match. So it doubles your Social Security and it doubles your Medicare if you're paying yourself in wages. So what people will do is at a certain point, it is better to pay yourself a portion of the money you're making in wages and the other portion in distributions. If you are paying yourself in distributions, meaning once a quarter you're writing yourself a bonus check, basically, you do not have to pay the employer matching on that. People say you avoid your taxes by doing that. That is not true. You still have to pay federal, state, if you have local, you still have to pay Social Security, you still have to pay whatever out of that, your taxes. Now, so I'm not sure about the Social Security, so take that back. But what I know you don't have to pay out of that is your matching, okay? So if you're writing yourself $100,000 worth of bonus checks a year, that's like 13 grand that you don't have to pay in the employer matching, which people call self-employment tax. But these terms people use, it's employer matching. Like when I looked at my wages from my payroll company this year, the amount that my company paid in Social Security, which is me technically, they call it employer liability, and the amount of employee liability on the Social Security, it was the exact same number for each one. So it's just a match. But until you get to a certain level, let's call it 100,000, you don't have to worry about that. But people act like it's a difference between whether you're an LLC or you're an S corp. That's not true. You're still an LLC. You're being taxed as a corporation. It is a tax filing election. It's just a form you file to elect to be taxed as a corporation. That's what the S corp is. So you are no longer being taxed as a partnership. You are being taxed. It's just for tax purposes as a corporation. So for people to say, are you an LLC or an S corp, it's really incorrect. It's, are you being taxed as a partnership or are you being taxed as a corporation? Okay, so I don't know if that's going to clear it up for everybody, but it's really just a legal distinction in my opinion, but people say it wrong so much that it confuses people. It even confused me, and I've got a Juris Doctorate, so I had to go back and relearn this stuff to make sure that I knew what I was talking about, and I'm pretty sure I do. Anyways, that's pretty much it. Let's review real quick. If you're just getting into business, get your vendor's license, get a checking account as a DBA, get some liability insurance. Those three things, that's all you need right there. Okay? As you grow, think about filing your LLC. That's probably the first thing I would do. It's probably the easiest. It costs $100. Then as you make more money, think about filing the S corp tax election and paying yourself a little differently. At that point, you're probably going to want an accountant. When you hire employees, you got to make sure you got your workers' comp, your unemployment, and your EIN number, which you're going to get from the IRS. None of this stuff is crazy difficult or confusing. It's literally going on a website, and if you can't figure it out, pick up the phone. Yeah, you might have to spend an hour or two one day, waiting on hold and talking to people, figuring it out. trying to fill stuff out, calling back, saying, okay, I didn't understand this. So yeah, it might take some time. So, this is what I hate is when you watch one of these videos and it's like how to file for your LLC and they go, guys, this is so easy. It's 3 clicks and 5 minutes and da da da. No, it really is easy, but nothing's easy the first time you do it. It's not extremely complicated, but it's figuring out for the first time what how to fill these things out, where to send them, all that stuff. So this is not legal advice, it's not business advice, but here's some actual advice. Don't let fear hold you back from doing these things. Don't let thinking it's going to be super expensive and thinking you're not making enough money yet hold you back from doing these things. I just told you, for the liability insurance, you don't even have to have money. If you go to Hiscox, I'm going to say that company flat out, I hope they don't mind trying to send some business their way. They will bill you. You got 30 days, maybe even 60 to pay that off. And for me in the beginning, it was only $41 or something. Okay. The vendor's license, it took me some time on the phone and figuring it out and how to get it right and everything. And, but I don't even know if they charge you anything for that. It's just a matter of having the time to sit down and figure it out. And just go to your, in Ohio, the Ohio Department of Taxation, type in service vendor license in the search box. And then your checking account, your DBA, which only means doing business as, all you got to do is walk into your bank branch and say, hey, bank manager, my name's Matt. I'm starting a landscape company and I'm a solopreneur. I'm a sole proprietor and I'd like to get a checking account and I really don't know how to do that. And they're going to go, here, Matt, sit down, fill out this form, and I'll get you set up. That's all you got to do. So this flying around by the seat of your pants stuff, and thinking that you're less than because you're not a, quote, legitimate business, this is for the birds, man. You are legit. You got a couple little things you got to do. And when people want to talk about, oh yeah, workers' comp this, workers' comp that, and da 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 da. I showed you how to get licensed and insured. Licensed and insured in landscaping means you got a service vendor's license, which just means you're collecting sales tax for the state of Ohio. And insured means you went on Hiscox's website, called somebody, and got a bill for $41 that you got 30 days to pay. It's really that easy. Now, as you grow, you're going to do the other things I've talked about. All right? The main thing is don't let fear control you. Don't let hearing all these other guys talk big, discourage you and think, man, I don't know what they're talking about. I don't know how to do that. Now you know how to do it. Now you know that all these big talking things, these guys don't really know either. They're most of them are blowing wind, okay? Now you know. And you can do this. You can do it out of your garage. You can hold your head high. You don't have to be putting your head down like you're not the real businessman. And these guys are, because they've got big trucks and they've got their name on the side of them. You're the man. You're the one. And I don't mean man as a male. I mean, you're the man. Okay, so please don't call me a misogynist. But what I'm trying to do is tell you, you are just as an amazing of a landscaper and a businessman as any of those people. As a matter of fact, is why guys do that when they get a couple levels above is because they realize that it's not as big a deal as they were making out of it. So they're like trying to act like it was a big deal when it's not. You can do this. You could literally sit down in one afternoon and get 90% of this stuff taken care of in one day. Okay? Take care of it now. It's winter time, man. When it's slow at all these offices and, slow at the bank, and you can get this stuff done. And when you start getting frustrated, when you're like, Matt told me this wasn't as big a deal as I thought, and this is way harder than I thought, just throw a comment down there. Tell me, dude, you're full of it. This is hard, you know? But you can't give up, okay? This stuff is, once you get through it, you're going to realize what I'm talking about is it really wasn't as bad as you were making it out to be. This whole I'm licensed and insured thing is a smokescreen because it's not that big a deal. I just showed you don't even need any money. It's 2 phone calls. All right? All right, all my solopreneurs out there, all my dreamers. This is your opportunity to change everything for yourself and start that small business. And believe in yourself and don't give up. That's the main thing. All right? This is Service Business from Home, and I'm signing off.